it's good that you're back. It's good you've still got the same look. I'm looking. It's very M&S meets UVF. I have to say, is kind of what I feel.
Look, I'm just going to be doing this when I'm old. Like, we're just going to have to get used to the bag. I've been doing this for 15 years now with the bag on. So, and it's this. Unless I run out of the bags, I got these out of the supermarket in Swords called JC's, and they gave me all their bags, about 10,000, you know. But I am starting to worry about how much is left. Because that's my career over.
So basically, if they run out of bags, you're stuffed.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a good look. I mean, it's not the first time that the covered-up look has actually been tried on the Late Late Show. I think you're probably more successful than this guy. That didn't work out.
Is that you?
That's me.
Go way out of it.
That's me, yeah. My first ever appearance on the Late Late Show where I walked out in a balaclava and I think Gay Byrne had a kitten right behind the desk.
The surreal IRA.
Yeah, surreal IRA. Look, that's exactly what it was. There you go. Brilliant. We got to talk about the new book. This is amazing. Here it is. Blindboy. Yeah. I have to say, I loved it. It's funny. It's heartfelt. It's heartbreaking. You must be very proud of it.
I am very proud of it. That's like, I spent 2 years writing it. It's a collection of short stories. I mean, the name Topographia Hibernica, I took it from, there's a 12th century document, a manuscript that was written by the Normans, who would have been the Brits, but they were kind of French, you know what I mean?
The French Brits?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And it was a justification for invading Ireland. It was justification for colonisation. It was a little bit like the Iraq dossier, a small bit, you know? It was like...
Hold that thought.
Exactly. Yeah. It was... They wanted to invade Ireland, but they needed an excuse to stay there. So this fella, Gerald of Wales, came to Ireland and created these fabricated stories about the Irish effectively being animals and dehumanised us through that. And it's like the first British tabloid. But it's also kind of a beautiful book because it's mad. He says that, Gerald of Wales says in the 11th century that people from Donegal, that they eat birds that grow on trees, you know, and it's full of these surreal things. But I'm fascinated by the connection between colonialism and biodiversity collapse, you know, because those two things are interrelated. Like the folklore of a country, folklore and mythology, like a lot of the stories are related to our relationship with biodiversity and nature. Like up until the 1600s in Ireland, it used to be illegal to kill a white butterfly because people believed that white butterflies contains the souls of dead children. So people didn't go near white butterflies. Similarly, people didn't go near bees because they believed that bees belonged to the goddess Bridget and that she lived in the other world and that her bees could travel through mist and fertilise our flowers. So people didn't mess with bees because they were supernatural. But if you look at how colonisation works, you eradicate the language, you eradicate the culture and the mythology, and then what happens is that the land is open for complete extraction. You know, you could extract and exploit. So those were two kind of threads of curiosity that I was pulling with for the short story collection, you know?
And I mean, it's all in here. It's all in the podcast as well. I mean, which is absolutely massive. 1.2 million listeners to that, which it goes in pretty much every direction.
Yeah, that's what I love. I love doing whatever I want with it, you know?
But at the same time, Limerick is pretty much still at the heart of it.
Yeah. Well, look, you know, RTE's up here in Dublin. Why not I have my podcast down in Limerick, you know? And I always end up getting in trouble, though, because there's a street in Limerick called Bedford Row and it's full of bird shit, you know. And I mentioned it to 1.2 million people and ended up in a feud with the council. I named it the bird shit district.
And that didn't catch on.
Well, it did. That was the problem. It's a street that smells heavily of bird shit. Like you shouldn't know what bird shit smells like, but you do when you're in this place, you know. So they brought out a fella who looks like Ross Kemp. And he was sitting in one of these things washing all the bird shit off, but it didn't work. It just evenly distributed the bird shit around the tiles, like low-quality toilet paper. I got killed by the council. I shouldn't have mentioned it on the late now as well. Limerick is great. The bird shit district is actually brilliant. There's a statue of Terry Wogan. There's a statue of
Is there any bird shit on him?
Loads.
Was it loads?
Man. There's pigeons on Terry Wogan, and then we've got Richard Harris at the top, and it's a type of kestrel that shits on him. And then in the middle, we have a plaque of the African-American abolitionist, Frederick Douglass. So it's a weird street, man. It's like an argument that's happening between Terry Wogan and Richard Harris, and then poor Frederick Douglass in the middle, mediating between the two. All of them made out of bronze.
I love that you basically just name places and it sticks, because you got the Birdshit District, and then you've also got Yurty's Couch, which features on the podcast.
Yeah, there was a place in Limerick that I used to meditate, and I meditate frequently, you know, it helps me to emotionally regulate. And one day I was coming out of meditation, and when you come out of meditation, you're very still and slow. And I saw an otter, and you don't see a lot of otters, you know, these days. And I saw this otter, and I christened him Yurty Ahern. That's the name that came into my head. But I mentioned it. That's him. That's the actual Yurty Ahern. Where'd you get that? Will you go away? He's eating an elver.
There he is.
That's actually him.
Wow.
That's the one from Limerick, yeah.
No, I know.
Wow.
I know.
Jeez, that's good research you have there. So that's him. He's an otter from Limerick. He's a legend called Yurty Ahern, and he features on my podcast. But otters live in an area called a couch, an otter's couch. And I named this area Yurty's Couch on my podcast. And then I couldn't go there anymore to meditate, because everyone went down trying to catch me without my bag in my head meditating, so I couldn't go there. But I returned recently, and I looked at Google Maps, and the name had been changed to Yurty's Couch. But people had done that. And what I loved about that is, what I adore about folklore and mythology, and this is what I explore in the book. Like back when Ireland was an oral culture, when there was no writing, I'm talking thousands of years ago, what you do is you tell stories about the landscape as a way to remember everything. So, like, you don't just have a lake. In this lake, there is a fish, and this fish, if you eat this fish, you get all the knowledge of the world. And that's where that's the beauty of mythology. It keeps you in line with systems of biodiversity. It keeps you, it's a map of the landscape around you. And I love the fact that I'd named this area Yurty's Couch, and without even trying it, it happened. Because people thought it was an interesting story, they'd renamed an area. And I found it very powerful, because that's a real otter that lives down there in Limerick. And he stopped a lot of apartments being built, unfortunately. Because we need housing.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I mean, you know, Yurty Ahern, I didn't know that Yurty stopped any building. I mean, that's... I thought he was get it up.
It did.